Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be doing a little something different than what we normally do. Normally, we talk about television shows, movies, or anything that's like kind of like film entertainment media. But today we're going to be talking about a video game. And this is a video game that is very near and dear to both me and Cheryl, which is rare because we play different video games a lot of the time. But this is one that we match up on because if you've watched this channel, the one thing you know about the both of us that we share is that we both love Star Wars. So, today we are talking about Jedi Survivor. We didn't talk about Fallen Order on this channel, but we both have played Fallen Order off stream on our own time, and then now we started up Survivor since it came out as of April 28th. So we are going to be talking about potential spoilers for the beginning of the game. We'll at least be talking about the story through possibly where Cheryl is up to. I'm a little further than her, so we'll figure that out. But if you don't want to be spoiled about anything for the game, then come back and check us out after you've played it and be in it for yourself. But if you don't care, or if you've played it already and you're just curious what our takes are on the game, how we're enjoying it, stick around and find out. So let's go ahead and let's dive right in, Cheryl. I think I'll let you start with your initial feelings when you booted up the game, because I know how I felt when I saw that opening planet, because I wasn't expecting to be on that opening planet. So that caught me off guard, like lovely.
I was mad. I was like, why am I arrested? Like, why do I start in jail? Like, what kind of game is this gonna be like when you start in jail? Like, escape room or something? And then, like, I don't know, I was very outraged, actually.
She was incensed. How could they capture Cal Kestis? How dare
Yeah.
they?
I was like, I felt like it was like the end of like the episode 3, and like like how I get out of this. I have to fight my way out of this, and I'm gonna have to like go through a lot to get off Coruscant. That's how I felt, and then you find out that it was a trick the whole time. I was like, you got
Yeah.
me. But
Hmm.
no, I thought it was really cool. I mean, just in general, I feel um, I'm impressed. I'm quite happy with this being a follow up to another video game that was already pretty damn good. Um, and one of the reasons why I feel that way is because I mean, there's just like a stack of reasons why the games are so good, and we're not even done with the game. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost just like it's the play, it's the world building, it's the story. Everything about it is so detailed, and like you're so immersed in it that like I don't even need to finish the game to tell you that it's good, because I'm already having such a good time playing it. But I think one of the things that I'm most impressed about is how when you start playing the game, you already know everything that you learned from the first game. So it's not like, and that's like one of the things that I think happens very commonly in games where, like, there's another part, like there's a sequel and there's another one, another one, another one. Um, you kind of have to relearn everything,
Hmm.
and you have to like gain these skills again, even though in the first game you have already acquired those skills. But in this game, you have all of the skills
I'm glad
that
you brought that up because I was waiting. That was on my list to bring up. Yes.
it's all there. Everything that you learn from Fallen Order, you have that in your bank. And so at the beginning, I'm like, well, where do we go from here? And then there's so much stuff that you can do. There's like I mean, everybody knows like almost every single game has a double jump, right?
Hmm.
But now like there's this new concept of having a dash, so you can like jump hella far. And I'm always like, can I go there? Can I jump there? Well, I
Yep.
gotta try because it's kind of far, but I can double jump dash now, so maybe I can
And,
make it.
and don't forget, this game also gave you a grappling hook, which that changes a lot too.
Yeah.
Every game needs a grappling hook. Uncharted did it. Tomb Raider did it. Now Now Jedi Survivor's done it, but that just adds so much verticality to your ability to go from place to place. So, and you have that at the beginning too, and such a simple thing. But yeah, let me let you continue before I kind of start. If there was some more that you wanted to like go in on.
Yeah, and like and to talk a little bit about the lightsabers, like you thought you knew you were gonna have the single saber and then the double sided saber, and then you find out that there's a dual lightsaber version of it, um, and then there's two more. There's a saber with a gun, and then there's a cross sword, which
Cross guard.
a cross guard sword that I actually really like.
I love it.
I've
I
been
love it.
I've been using that for like the bigger guys and the single
Mhm.
combats, and then I use the double sided, of course, for the crowd control. So and I maxed out the skills for both of those.
Yeah, and
Having
like
no survival skills.
no, but it's great because that's the thing that also makes this good. Like I think that's a good segue to talk about like how you can customize your Cal in this game. Like you really can make your own Jedi. And like yes, it's not like you making like your own created character like you, but you can really make it so that your Cal plays different than someone else's Cal because you just mentioned how you're using the cross guard and the double bladed lightsaber. I'm also using the cross guard, but I'm using the single lightsaber because I like the single lightsaber style. My roommate is using the single lightsaber and the dual wielding lightsaber style. I haven't met anyone that's actually using the lightsaber and blaster one, so that's one that I was actually we'll have to talk about to see how effective we think that style is as far as an addition. But seeing like all these styles got me really thinking about how I like the idea of every new trilogy. If we're going to get more Star Wars trilogies, I would love to see how like new Star Wars trilogies comes up with at least one new lightsaber concept. Because you think about it, we started with a single lightsaber idea, and then the prequel trilogy introduced the dual bladed lightsaber idea, and then the sequel trilogy introduced the crossguard lightsaber idea. And so it's actually something that I'm actually grateful for from the sequel trilogy era because I actually do like that lightsaber style. I remember when I first saw it, I thought it was kind of like stupid looking, but I like the way the style plays in the game. So I would love to see like more kind of creative lightsabers that get made in the future if we get more trilogies. But you can customize your lightsaber, like the pieces, just like you get in Fallen Order. You can customize the color. You can customize your cowl. You can change his beard. You can change his hairstyle. You can change his clothing. And his clothing is more than just ponchos this time around, which is great. You can change the colors for it. You can customize BD. You can change out the parts on BD. You can customize the color for BD. You can't customize the mantis in Survivor, but that's okay because there's so many other things that you're able to do. And then yeah, you can. They have the stances, so you can choose one of two stances, and so you can't have all access to all five, but you can choose one of two, and based on those two that you choose, that's kind of like who your Cal is. Your Cal is the Cal that likes to go between cross guard and double bladed. That is this Cal Kestis, and so that's what I like. You really feel like you're playing like your version of Cal Kestis.
Yeah, and that's also why we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but we'd love to see what your lightsaber, your Cal, your BD1 looks like. You can drop your pictures in on our Discord channel. And Chris can drop the link really quick. But I think,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's one of the reasons why this this follow up game is so much more like it's so much more interesting than the first one. Like it really tops it because you can really, like you said, like make your own Jedi, but it also really fits into everybody's different playstyle. Like if you really like using guns, you can use a gun but you can still be a Jedi. um
Mm-hmm.
and um and yeah, I would agree that the cross guard one is really cool, but they looked really stupid in the sequel trilogy. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, I think the only downside that I felt for this game is that it could feel a little overwhelming sometimes because
Especially when
the
we get to that first planet of Kobo.
Yeah, it's just the map is huge. Like it's so big. I don't know where to go. I mean, like they tell you where to go, but then like I'm the kind of person that likes to, explore stuff and I really like open worlds, but the thing about open worlds is that if you miss something, it's no big deal because you'll probably
And go back.
run by it
Yeah.
again at some point. And there isn't like usually only one thing that you can get in one place. They're like usually everywhere in like different biomes or something like that. That you like, it's not a
Hmm.
huge deal if you miss something because it's an open world. It's like endless. But here it's still contained. It's just very big, and so if you miss something, you do have to go back and get it. But the new thing that helps a little bit with it is the teleportation that you have
Fast
the fast
travel,
travel.
baby.
It's just really helpful because then you can use the map to find. Unfortunately, when you do the fast travel, you don't get to see the yellow zones that you hadn't explored yet, which I kind of wish they had, so that it's a little bit easier to find stuff. So like I find myself having to look at the mini map, find the yellow thing that I haven't gone to
Oh,
explore,
yes. You
then
can't
look at
see it in the
the
fast travel menu.
yeah,
Yes.
then I have to find
Yes.
the rest spot, the meditation circle, remember the name of it, look for it in the other.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So it's kind of a pain to have to do it that way. So I do feel like it takes me out of the game a little bit trying to maneuver through that stuff a little bit. And that like it doesn't really tell you where things are. You have to find them. Like you know that like there's X amount of like items or like special things to find the collectibles in each area, but it doesn't tell you where
I
or
will
whether or not you
I will
can
just
reach it.
yes, I will just say because we always have these people in our comments that like get farther and they want to like correct us on things. I'll at least say just play a little bit longer. You might be surprised
Okay.
about that. So, yes, I will say this. This game is to me is goated. It's like one of the great it's like one of the greatest games because the the a lot of the problems that we have been addressed, and I will say this. You can play this game without a guide. You can play this game, and based on what I've seen, you can get everything in the game without a guide. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll let you play, and you'll discover that for yourself because it was a cool discovery for me. But that being said, I do think it's an absolutely valid critique that you cannot see the details that you can see in your mini map in your fast travel when you go to fast travel because you do have to go back and forth and scroll through and then look and like all of that is 100% right. So that would be a nice little fix. Another issue I think is that it's not terrible, but in certain areas the frame rate just starts like really dipping when you're playing the game. When the game is running at a solid 60 frames, when you're like in certain enclosed areas, like corridors and stuff like that, it is amazing. It's beautiful. It runs smoothly. It feels great. But certain times when you're running through like the open area of Kobo, it just starts chugging. And when that happens, it doesn't feel like you're playing a next gen or only game. It doesn't feel like you're playing a PlayStation 5 game. And so that is a little bit unfortunate. So that kind of like takes me out of it. I've gotten used to it, but that's one of those things where if it was a perfect world, I'd like it if that was just not there at all.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's just a testament to how huge the map is, especially on
Yeah.
Kobo. It happens to me when I'm like in the water, then it really
Hmm.
slowed. But as soon as I jump out of the water, it kind of goes back to normal.
Hmm.
It did crash on me
It's
once.
crashed on me too.
It crashed on my boyfriend twice.
It's crashed on me 3 times.
And then there was one time where I got murdered, and then when I respawned, everything was black, but I could see the meditation circles. And then when I get off the meditation circle, everything looks like water, and I can see the bastard that killed me, but I can't walk over there because I know there's like a cliff somewhere. Um, So I had to
Dang.
restart the whole PlayStation because logging out, logging back in didn't help. So um,
Mm.
Point is, it's a little buggy, but only a little buggy. And what's to blame is how great it is.
Yeah, and at least we're not playing the PC version. For those of you guys watching us, we are aware the PC version of this game is an absolute mess. EA is trying to fix it. We are both playing on PlayStation 5, so we don't have the same problems that people are reporting on PC. So for us, we are not having those issues, which is why we're not going to talk about them here. But these are like some of the little issues we have come across. One of the things that what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say we're fancy on a PlayStation 5s.
Right? This is just a little buggy for you. I mean,
Poor
you're right
PC
playing that.
people.
The state of current games. But some of the other things I want to talk about when going back to the opening on Coruscant, when you're going through and you meet that crew, I thought to myself, all of you do not have like pretty like very unique faces. You're probably all gonna die, and that's exactly what happens. And like, so I like the fact that this game like gives Cal a crew of friends that he's been traveling with, Marin, Seer, what's his name,
Grease.
Grease. Like they're all like gone, they're missing, they're somewhere. They're not really missing. They've all like gone their separate ways. You find out, but they're not with you at the beginning of the story, and they were all together at the end of Fallen Order. So part of the story is like, oh, where did everybody go? What did everybody do? And that'll be a journey. That'll be something you find out on the way. One thing that this game has added, like Cheryl was saying, like you start the game off and you basically get all these abilities like back to back to back. It's basically all of your Fallen Order abilities, and you start to ask yourself, what else am I going to get in this game if you're giving me all these things in the first hour? So, and there is a lot more. One of the things that the game gives you is it gives you a companion now. So in certain areas, you can have a companion that will help you traverse the area, or that you can get issue commands to do attacks to, and then versus certain animated kills, like certain games, certain enemies, or certain times when you're fighting enemies, you get special animated kills that Cal can do after you break their guard enough or whatever. And you'll get special tag team animated kills with your teammates when you're fighting certain characters. And those are always really fun to watch. So I like that as a kind of new addition. And another thing that I want to mention while I'm thinking about it is that they added a kind of base mechanic in Survivor now, where you have this cantina that starts off as kind of like this decrepit, like place, this decrepit bar that there's nothing much in. But as you keep playing through more of the game and you find more people and you send them to your cantina, the cantina starts to like get more lively, starts to get more bustling, and then you end up having kind of like this full scale kind of bar that you can go to for your home base with all these different characters that you can talk to. And some of these characters can give you side quests, some of these characters just tell you a little bit more about themselves, and it's such an extra like flavor element to the game that isn't necessarily something that you absolutely needed, but it helps to immerse yourself in this world. And so it's an addition that I like, and it makes me have this feeling of, yo, can I get this tank to not look so dirty? I want a clean tank, god dang it. So it's a really nice, an extra addition, and another example of how the game is really focused on immersing you in the world of Star Wars rather than just trying to make another game that is just trying to like sell you something for some money.
Yeah, the only thing though about the cantina that I kind of didn't see coming was that they would just all always be in the cantina. I thought that they might be like all about the town a little bit, and that they would make their own shops and stuff like that. I guess like now after like understanding how big the map is, it makes sense how I could see that would be a little bit challenging to have more buildings pop up,
Yeah,
in the map. But now the bar feels a little bit like it's getting kind of crowded.
crowded. It's kind of crowded. I mean, but yeah, that's also to show like the, excuse me, the success of the bar. Um, but yeah, so like that was another kind of element they added. One of the cool things about this game too is that they had this whole thing where they have these workbenches around the town, and you think in other games you'd go to the workbench and it's about like adding like plus 2% damage to your lightsaber, plus 3% damage to your blaster, but that's not what this game is about. This game is about just having fun in Star Wars. These workbenches are completely cosmetic. It is only like you get perks in the game at some point that you can add, but that's not what this workbench is about. It's about customizing your BD to look how to make BD look the way you want. It's about customizing your lightsaber and your blaster and stuff like that. And the collectibles that you search for throughout the world, a lot of them, there are some that are devoted towards like increasing your health, increasing your force ability, increasing your skill points. But a lot of them are like getting colors, getting like hairstyles for Cal, getting beards for Cal, getting parts for BD1,
Pants.
and that's getting pants, and like that's kind of like the collectible nature that's pushing you through the game. It's just all cosmetic. It's not about like getting different color like stat boost drops from enemies. It is really just about getting stuff that makes you look the way that you want to look in this Jedi game.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, I feel like everything just kind of got one upped on Fallen Order. Like, I thought Fallen Order was a really solid game already. And then after playing this, I thought it would be very similar and very close. Maybe almost exactly the same, except
I
for
thought it was gonna be
different.
the same.
Yeah, and that would have been fine by me
I would
too.
have been fine with it too.
Because Fallen Order was such a solid game, but then now you have this new game and like everything is just one up. Like it's just across the board on every element of the game. It's it's just a little bit better. Or not even just a little bit better, but some in some aspects it's a lot better and like I'm enjoying myself a lot. I think the like I said, the only issue I really had was just being a little overwhelmed sometimes when I'm trying to decide whether or not I should explore or just go about the main storyline. I feel like I can't decide what I should or shouldn't do, because I know there's some areas that I can't do yet. So I feel like maybe I need a little bit more direction. But in terms of like the world looks really cool. I'm hoping that there's gonna be more planets besides Kobo, the moon, and I know we can go back to Coruscant now,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Yeah,
and
have you?
Jeddah.
I was gonna say, have you been to Jeddah?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Jeddah. I'm hoping there'll be at least one more planet, because that's part of the fun of Star Wars is being able
Planet
to,
hopping.
yeah, to go all of these different planets and stuff. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, no, go ahead.
I want to bring up something lore wise, which is interesting. Do you remember the planet Jeddah? Do you remember why that planet's significant in the Star Wars like timeline?
It sounds familiar.
So I thought this was pretty interesting, and it adds an extra context of kind of sadness when you realize what's going to happen. Jeddah is the planet that Saw Gerrera is on at the beginning of Rogue One.
Oh, that's why
So
it sounds familiar.
yes, Jeddah is the planet that Krennic tests the Death Star on in Rogue One. And so it adds an element of sadness because you see what Sierra is doing on Jeddah, what Sierra and Cordova are doing. And this is like 9 years before the Death Star is going to fire, as far as the story when it takes place. But it's kind of crazy to think that 9 years later, all this hard work is just going to literally go up in flames.
Yeah. I mean, there's just I really like how, you know, in Fallen Order they connected the story to stuff that we already know. Like Saw Gerrera was in it. We got to go to Kashyyyk, and there's a lot of familiarity to it without going to Tatooine because everything happens on
Mm.
Tatooine. So and Dathomir, that was also really cool to get to go
Dathomir was really
there.
cool.
So like now I feel like the planets are not as like familiar and they're like it's definitely feeling a little bit more disconnected, but then we're still getting like the troopers, we got the battle droids and stuff like.
And we got to go to Coruscant, which is like cool because
Yeah.
we see Coruscant all that we saw Coruscant in Andor, we saw it in like the Mandalorian recently.
Yeah.
So like Coruscant's actually been getting a lot of love recently in Star Wars. So when before it never even got mentioned outside the prequels. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
cool to see Coruscant popping up everywhere. I think Coruscant looks great in this game. Like you look around, like there was when I was having to be led around in handcuffs and I was getting pushed. I was like, "Yo, give me a second. I'm trying to look at this city, yo. I mean, I'm actually in Coruscant right now. This is a big deal."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was really cool. And I love that they started us on Coruscant too, because, like, what an opener. Like, I'm hooked.
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
instantly hooked.
and yo, that first image, the first when you guys when you boot up the game after you see like the preview of the information of what happened in Fallen Order, where you're looking at that start screen where you get to choose like to load your game or new game and everything else like that. You're looking at the Jedi Temple and you recognize, it's the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but it's got like the Imperial banners on it, and it's just like that image right there is
Ugh,
so
yeah. Because I
every
don't think, like,
time.
we haven't really seen the temple like that before because we've never
No.
been in a setting when we're on Coruscant while it's under control of the Empire.
Yep.
So that
Yeah.
was like, wow, what is
Ex-
happening?
Exactly. So, and it's just like, yes, there's such an attention to detail. There's so many different like connections. You hear about Jaro Tapal, which is Cal's master, who we met in Fallen Order, who was killed during Order 66, and they mentioned it in Fallen Order, but people probably don't remember. They mentioned it again in this game. Jaro Tapal's master was Yaddle, and so then you realize, and then Yaddle recently has been got more play because we got to see her in Tales of the Jedi when she had her altercation with Dooku, and so now you're like drawing these connections with Yaddle had an apprentice who was Jar Tapal, who was the master of Cal Kestis. So now we have these direct lines to these characters that we know from the prequel era, and they didn't have to do that, but I love that they did because now it is like we are kind of disconnected, but at the same time we have these different elements that kind of tie our characters together even though they're all so far apart.
Yeah, and I really like how these little things are connecting. It's like they I feel like they did put a lot of familiarity and connection in Fallen Order. But yeah, they do also do that in Survivor. I'm just kind of waiting. Like, I'm not, I think I'm maybe like 25% done with the game.
Hmm.
So I know there's still a long way to go. Actually, I don't really know where I am, but um
Yeah.
but I'm waiting for that moment because, like, in Fallen Order, there was this one really awesome moment where, like, you get to drive, you get to go inside an AT-AT, and then you
Oh
get to
yes.
freaking drive it. Like, that was so dope. I'm like waiting for what's gonna be the cool thing that we get to do. Like, what's the cool thing we get to drive in this game? I really hope they don't forget how much we love that in Fallen Order and they give us something else. Like, maybe we get to fly like a TIE fighter, or um I don't know what else, but
Yeah. No, no, I think you're right. Like that's one of the things that's really great about Fallen Order. It's another thing that's great about this is that like the story segments are very cinematic. I wanted to ask just before we brought it up, like, um, how you got the I know you got the air dash recently. Did you get past that segment on Jeddah? Did you get past like that kind of very cinematic moment on Jeddah with
with
Marin?
Marin,
Okay.
yes.
So that is like one of the coolest segments like of the game so far for me.
It was so stressful.
It's so good. And that reminds me, that's one thing I wanted to make sure I remember to say on this stream, that this is a better Sonic the Hedgehog game than most Sonic the Hedgehog games. Because you have moments when you are just flying. It is about platforming and speed, and you got to go fast. And you're doing wall jumps to double jumps to dashes to force pulling to like grabbing a rope to jump off to double jump to grab off to something to grapple hook to another thing. And there's the entire time there's just nothing at your feet. You're
Dude,
just
literally,
in
it's
the
like
air.
what ground?
Yes, exactly. And so that's one thing that Survivor still has going for it is that the platforming is very, very fun. The cinematic moments and set pieces are very, very fun. They're very, very interesting. And the characterization is also very interesting. Like, I love seeing these characters. When you get to see these characters interact in cutscenes, Marin and Cal have a very nice moment together where you get to see that they actually do have a very strong relationship or a very strong friendship with one another when the two of them are just sitting in a cave and talking. And it's like one of my favorite scenes in the story so far. It's like, but the game is littered with moments like that. And then at the same time, it's littered with cool moments. We haven't really gotten to talk about the primary villain or like where the story is going. Like, but there's a lot of stuff dealing with the High Republic in this story this time around. The main villain, when you first meet him, you get to see the process of bleeding a lightsaber. We hear about this process all the time about how you get a red kyber crystal, and in this game, they actually made you see it. The Jedi that you rescue bleeds his lightsaber from yellow to red right in front of you before you enter into a boss battle with him. That's what this game does. This game takes all this lore that we're accustomed to and it just enhances it. And it really does feel like a game that is made by people that have a love and respect for the world of Star Wars.
Yes, and it's a very, very clear, even from the first game, how like detailed they were because they put all the stuff that you love from Star Wars in it, and it's very Star Wars esque. Like it looks like something that you would see in a movie. Like, and
Yes.
you know, I and I mentioned this earlier when we were talking off the stream or off the show, but one of the things about Star Wars is that like they have crazy sets with like crazy high non-functional areas that don't make any sense and like
Right.
every you're just like a drop away from death like and it that's literally how every part of the game is designed except for when you're like essentially in town
Yeah.
where you're like not supposed like it's not a dangerous area, you're just doing stuff but as soon as you go into an area where there could be enemies like look out. Don't fall off. Like I have fallen off the edge of something so many times. I had to turn off fall damage or like the damage that you get from dying from a fall because I was like,
You kept falling.
this sucks. Like I just don't know what I like if I can
Have to
make
go.
can I make that jump or not? Or am I supposed
Yeah,
to
that's
grab
true.
on that or am I supposed to grab on that? Like it's not that intuitive for me because I don't really game a lot for RPGs. So
That's true.
like
I think a lot of people actually have that problem. It's not always clear what the game wants you to do, and you have to do it a very specific way. And if any kind of deviation will usually result in you falling to your, you losing some health. So I don't think it's just you. I think that that is another criticism that could be levied at the game.
yeah, and plus there's a lot of parkour in this game. Like more so than the first one. Like everything has just elevated. Plus there's that like I was telling you about the that one force tear where there is literally no ground from until like there's a ground that you start on and then there's a ground that you end on, but the whole thing
Oh,
that
you
you
know
have to go
what's
through.
funny? I you showed me that, and for some reason I thought that was the first. Like now I'm realizing what you said because I thought it was the one where you have to jump over the switching lights. I thought it was that one, but no, this is the one where you have to parkour through the entire one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that one was hard for me too. That one was tough. So
Yeah, I took a video of it, and I actually shared it on Facebook, but I'll show it to you later. But I captured the moment where I actually finished it, and I had spent hours on on it trying to achieve it. Like that was torture. I think that's the literally only part of the game where it was like I hate this game,
yes, and
but
that's
it's
one thing that
optional.
it's optional, and unfortunately for that, you can't change the difficulty on it, which is one thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, because we could talk about this probably for another hour, but and we can talk about a few more. We don't have to end right away, but like I wanted to mention the difficulty in this game. This game does have a difficulty setting. It is a kind of like Respawn's version of a Dark Souls game. It's kind of like a Star Wars Dark Souls game where when you rest at like the bonfire or whatever, or the meditation circles, it'll respawn all the enemies. Any enemy could possibly kill you, and like you do get stronger, but at the same time, if you find like five stormtroopers, if you're not being careful, five stormtroopers will end you. So you're powerful, but you're not all powerful. But once again, this game does have a difficulty slider. You can change difficulties. I'm playing on Jedi Master right now, and like for me, that's felt pretty good for the most part. But you can't change the difficulty for the parkour sections or like those tiers. You can't make those easier. There's no way. You just have to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was like Cause okay, so when I did Fallen Order, I did it on story mode, and this
Mhm.
time I'm like, I'm gonna be a Padawan.
Nice.
So I have the difficulty a little bit harder this time, and then while I'm doing the parkour stuff, I'm like, what about the Padawans? What are we supposed to do?
I love that. I love that because I played Jedi Fallen Order on Jedi Knight, and so on this one I also upped the difficulty for myself because I was like, I think Cal would be a Jedi Master by now. So that's what I was trying. That's why I was playing that way. So that's cool. I'm glad that we both decided to up the difficulty for ourselves on this go around, and we're having fun with it. So
Yeah. I think the one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to, but also wondering if like we can ever have that moment that gets topped. And that is the very like the bestest moment in Fallen
oh
Order.
yes, we
The
will.
one
We won't spoil it too much here.
I'm
But
gonna
yes,
spoil it
I
for
know
you
which
right now.
one.
Just tune
Oh
it
no,
out.
I guess
Or
that's
maybe
true.
okay, fine. I won't spoil it. But you know that you all know
You
that
know,
moment.
if you know, you know.
Yeah, you know. It's the moment where you shit your pants.
Yes, exactly. And you're just like, no, we don't stay here. We run.
Oh
We
shit,
run
oh shit, oh shit.
now.
How do I leave?
Yes, I remember my roommate got to that section and she was like, I could take him," and you're like, no, you can't. I don't know if you know. People know that name. They never heard of Cal Kestis. You about to get deleted. You need to run.
He's
Yes,
like
I
the
wonder if they have that
villain
too.
for like several episodes, several movies. Anyways,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
but
So I do
yeah,
wonder if there's gonna be a moment like that too.
yeah, because
But can they even top that? I
I
don't
know
think you
like
can top that.
how like what
Yeah.
Sidious.
I mean, I guess Maul might be a surprise if you run into Darth Maul, but
No, but that won't make me shit my pants the same way, you know?
that's true. That's true. That's fair. Completely fair. And one other, and speaking of like difficult enemies, this will be my last thing that I want to mention before I'm done. But um, for the most part, I feel like the game is fair. I don't think that there are too many enemies where it doesn't feel fair. Like the game when you fight bosses, like lightsaber battles are the most fun battles. That's like one of the most fun things about Jedi Survivor. It's a constant dance of blocking and parrying and dodging, and it just feels good. It really found a good way. Same thing with Fallen Order of like really making you role play what it would be like to be in a lightsaber battle as two opposing Jedi. It's great. That being said, there are two particular bosses in the game. Both are technically optional that feel like they did not think about how they wanted to balance that at all. And it's the only time in the game when I felt like this does not feel fun or fair. I'll be curious when you get there. But besides that, I think the rest of the game is great. But those are the only two bosses where I'm just like, this is kind of dumb for no reason. So we'll talk about that more later once you play more.
Is it I always forget his name, but when I say this you'll know who I'm talking about. Is it Ogo Bogo?
Oh yes, it is. It absolutely is.
What's his
It
name?
is Ogdo. It is Ogdo.
Ogo
It is
Bogo.
Ogdo. It is Ogdo. So yes, and you can beat him. You can absolutely beat him. It's just that that boss does not feel fun to fight against. While every other boss does. And then there's another version of that boss in the game, and that boss is even less fun to fight against.
Is it
So
is it the Rancor?
no, the Rancor is
No.
cool. I
Cuz
actually like the Rancor.
yeah, I did too, except for he stole my souls. And
Yes, he did. But there was a reference to Return of the Jedi in that fight too, because you could grab the
the
bones and like
bone. I didn't
and
know
his mouth.
about that part, but
Uh,
I'm a Padawan. I'm not that coordinated.
it's okay. We all have to start somewhere, young Padawan. You will get there eventually. Um, but yeah, so we've been talking for about 40 minutes. I know that we both there's a lot to talk about this game. I don't even think we've touched on like half the things that we could discuss. But I feel like we did get a good sense. I think you guys watching us get a good sense of how we feel about the game, how we're enjoying it. We actually didn't talk about story spoilers that much in this, which is kind of nice.
We didn't really at
Um,
all. It was all like mechanics, really.
yeah, exactly. So maybe we shouldn't have said spoiler alert, but I
No,
mean,
we
is there anything
spoiled
else?
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did spoil some stuff. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that was really important to you to mention for the YouTube segment before we get out of here?
No, I'm just having so much fun, and I'm sad to like, I'm not looking forward to finishing it because it'll be
It'll be
over.
over. But hey, cross your fingers for more DLC, and then maybe in another 3 years we'll get another
Another
Jedi
one, and I'm just gonna keep
game.
playing Fallen Order and Survivor over and over again. It's just, I
Yes,
think I didn't really like hit on this too much, but it literally does feel like a continuation from Fallen
it
Order.
does. It really does.
Like I've been telling people before I even started playing Survivor that like Fallen Order is really good. You should play Survivor and everything. Like this was before I even started playing. Then I started playing, and now I'm like, wait, you should play Fallen Order first, and then play Survivor
Yeah.
because it's sequential. Like it would make so much more sense playing Survivor if you played Fallen Order first. You don't have
Mm.
to, but then like once you play Survivor, if you go back to Fallen Order, I feel
It won't be the
like
same.
it won't be the same. There'll be a little bit of dissatisfaction because it's not like Fallen Order is. I can't believe I'm gonna say, it's not as good as Survivor.
I mean, it's fine. Fallen Order is still a good game, and I know some
Yeah,
people that still prefer Fallen Order. But yeah, like I think this game just builds on the stuff that Fallen Order, the groundwork that Fallen Order laid so well, and also just because of the fact that at the end of the day, you'll get more appreciation for these characters and their situations if you got to experience them in the first game. You'll understand why it's interesting seeing Seer in the position that she's in. You'll understand why Marin isn't around and why that's significant because of what her story was in Fallen Order and her relationship to the Night Sisters. So like you'll understand why Grease has a gambling problem and what that actually almost cost the team in Fallen Order. So like I do agree. It's kind of like you kind of need to play Fallen Order before you play Survivor. You kind of need to see A New Hope before you watch Empire Strikes Back, so that Empire Strikes Back can hit you more. So it's kind of like one of those things, I would say. So yeah, I definitely agree. So all right, we you good? We can get out of here.
yeah.
All
Should we
right.
signal the people?
All right, the signal. We're getting out of here, y'all. So, what did you guys think about Jedi Survivor? We are gushing about it. We're probably gonna go and continue playing right after we're done with this. I'm about 80% through the game. Cheryl's about 25%. We're both like still enjoying it and we're still loving it. Do you guys have the same feelings towards it? Do you like Fallen Order more? Do you kind of want to see more games from this franchise? You want some DLC? Whatever you think about this game and more, comment below. Let us know. And way down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl and Amber Padawan.